Good evening, good morning, everybody. Mary Hunt here at Water, and I'm happy to welcome you to our last uh, water meditation for the year 2023. Adrienne Corti is doing our meditation tonight, and Lisa from our office is doing the IT. It's Monday, December 4th at 7:30 p.m. on the East Coast, and Coralie, it's what, 9:30 where you are in the morning? Or is it 10:30? 9:30. I think it's 9:30. Um, we're going to be piercing the darkness of Advent tonight, and we're really delighted to end our series of meditations on this note, especially when the times are as troubled as they are in our world,
Mm,
and when we who seek peace feel thwarted at every turn. We seek light.
mm.
Last month, Kitty Madden brought us a very meaningful message on Ministry of Presence from Nicaragua. Kitty, thank you. I'm glad you're here tonight, and thank you for that message, which was so meaningful to so many of us. As you know, you can go on the Water website under meditations and watch any of the meditations that have taken place, and I urge you to do that with Kitty's Ministry of Presence from Nicaragua. We also send out notes, and those were very valuable this time. People found it very compelling, and again, Kitty, we're grateful to you. Let us begin, as we always do, with the land acknowledgement. This is something that we've incorporated into our programs to remind ourselves of why we do
I
what we
feel
do
like we have to put the
and
ornaments
what we
on.
need to do more of given the systemic injustice Indigenous and other people of color face in this country. A land acknowledgement is a beginning, but it's not an end. We at Water are on Indigenous land in Silver Spring, Maryland, the traditional and contemporary land of the Piscataway and Anacostan peoples. We acknowledge the trauma and injustice toward Indigenous people that is deep in U.S. culture and history. We join in efforts to eradicate it and to make reparations for the genocide involved. Water's work is aimed to bring about social justice, and I invite you this evening to consider the Native people on whose land you sit. It may be that you want to put into the chat the name of the people on whose land you sit. Let's just take a moment. Thank you. Let us offer our energies to Native people. The format is always the same. The presenter offers something brief, and the presenters change, which is what makes this so interesting. They present something for about 7 or 8 minutes, and it sparks our contemplation. And then we spend 22 minutes in silence together. Listen for the gong. It sounds like this. Can you hear it?
Yes.
That's the gong. And it will begin and end our 22 minutes of silence. After the silence, we'll open the floor for conversation. And right now, I would say feel free to turn off your audio. And then when we move into the meditation, you can also turn off your video if you want and enjoy the image that will be on the screen. We invite you to meditate as you will. There's no right way to do this. There's no right way to find your center. There's no right way to breathe. There's no right way to focus. There are lots of hints and glimpses of how to do it, but we really invite you to find your own way, not to do the way that someone else has found works for them. I'd also ask you to mute your phone so that we don't get ambient noise during our time together. Let me introduce then Adrienne Corti, a Canadian who is no stranger to water. She was a teacher of French and Italian at both the elementary and high school levels before her retirement. With studies in theology and scripture, she was a religion consultant in the Catholic school system in Ontario, participating on writing teams for the revision of religion programs for the Canadian bishops. I hope they listened. And was involved as a teacher and then principal of Ministry of Education courses for teacher certification in religious education. The Canadian system is different than the American in that regard, but I'm sure that it was a wonderful way of having an impact on a large educational system. She designed summer religion courses that took teachers to Israel, Greece, and Italy, an experience that I'm sure gives her plenty of insight into the current war in the Middle East. God knows what we'll do about it, but anybody who has friends and experiences there, I think, feels it in a very particular way. She was a spiritual director at a small retreat house for 10 years, working with people of various religious backgrounds. She was also on a local committee that brought 2 refugee families to the area from the Congo and from Iraq. And this was followed by 12 years working as a tour manager with Senior Tours Canada, which broadened the appreciation of various cultures, languages, and of course, friendships. It's with this background that she comes to us, and having been part of this group for a number of years now, I think, Adrienne, you know exactly what to do and how to hit the real sweet spot for water meditations, and we look forward to your piercing the darkness now in this time of Advent. Thank you very much for being in leadership tonight.
Deeply thank you, Mary, for you and all your work. So in tonight's meditation, I would like us to dream about the possibility of seeing a great light and feeling the light shining upon us and within us. Isaiah the prophet in chapter 9 tells us that the people who walk in darkness will see a great light. Those who live in a dark land, the light will shine on them. We all know that right now we are walking in a dark land, each year seeming to get darker and darker as we watch in country after country, leaders being elected who do not appear to bring light and hope into our world. War and violence are all around us, and although in North America we appear to be living in relative peace, we do not have to look far to see violence in human trafficking, domestic abuse, murdered Indigenous women, and the deep unrest in our own hearts. To move into the light and beauty does not mean to bypass the suffering world, but to draw it into the light. When we think of the Palestinians in Gaza and in the left bank, or the Israeli and other hostages, we feel their despair with no immediate hope of rescue. This parallels the world into which Jesus was born, Galilee, from a poor family, surrounded in bleakness. Then come unexpected breakthroughs, signs of hope in the star, signs of angelic hosannas. What hope nourishes you in the darkness of these times? For our reflection, I will draw on the wisdom of 2 modern-day prophets who have been working relentlessly for much of their lives to promote nonviolence and peace wherever they can. They are the Jesuit John Deere, peace activist and founder of the Beatitude Center for the Nonviolent Jesus, and the IBVM Loreto sister from Kenya, Sister Wamuyu Teresia, co-president of Pax Christi International. John Deere talks about 3 attributes of nonviolent peace. 1, be totally nonviolent to yourself. We need to examine our resentments, our bitterness, anger, and allow the God of peace to disarm our hearts and become people of nonviolence. 2, practice meticulous nonviolence toward everyone else. Those who irritate you are your teachers. Train yourself to use creative love and allow Spirit to work through you to reconcile with others. 3, join the global grassroots of nonviolence, being an activist in whatever ways your capacity. We need to reclaim the nonviolent Jesus by putting down our swords and weapons, including our words and actions, and become the peacemakers. Sister Teresa recommends ways to pierce the darkness. There are cries for healing in our world. The brokenness of a people, our culture of greed and consumerism, the widespread migration of people, the abandoned elderly, the bleeding environment due to climate change. The signs of hope and life we can bring to them are ways of caring and embracing, seeing all as living in a common home, valuing our youth as vibrant, adventurous, creative beings, full of potential, and seeing our elders as oases of wisdom. The passage of Matthew 14:15 to 21 models for us Advent as a giving time. Jesus sees the crowd, and his heart is moved with compassion. He invites the disciples to feed the crowd. The people are fed, and there is food left over. We must reject consumerism and give to those in need by opening not only our wallets, but our hearts. These two prophets in our midst give me a hopeful heart. These days, I also find hope in the youth who are activists, finding their voices and using them to spread messages, alerting us, as Pope Francis does, to put our energy and efforts into climate change and the environment. Closer to home, my 17-year-old grandniece from Atlanta, who is studying in Kingston, Canada, has become a very involved activist, using any opportunity she has to use her songs, poetry, and voice at protests with messages such as this. Together, the power of love will amplify what we believe in, and we can make the world a better, safer, and healthier place. In Advent, let us imagine using the power of our love to create such a place. So now, to lead us into our 22 minutes of meditation time, I will ask Lisa to play the song, if she can, Bring Me to Your Light, by a Canadian songwriter, Pat Mayberry. So the invitation for you is to visualize and dream the possibility of piercing the darkness, however we experience it, with a great light that will envelop and soak into our world and our very beings. So now let us unite with one another in this hopeful silence. I think we'll just go to the meditation, Lisa. And it's about bring me to your light. And we'll just meditate on the picture.
Yes, thank you, Will. Thank you very much. So I'm going to ring the gong and start our 22 minutes of silence, and we will have this beautiful image to look at. The people who walk in darkness will see a great light. Those who live in a dark land, the light will shine on them. And we send Coralie off now to her morning Christmas celebration in Australia. Good evening again, and thank you to Adrienne Corti for this very meaningful meditation with a very tough question embedded in it. What gives you hope now? This was a challenging meditation, trying to pierce the light at a time when the world is at war on several fronts. I'd like to, again, thank you for participating and just mention what's upcoming, with a special thank you, of course, to Adrienne and to Lisa for moving us into this evening. We will have another wonderful thing this week, which is on Wednesday at 1 o'clock. We will have what I think is one of the big books of our time. It's a book called Loving Our Own Bones, Disability, Wisdom, and Spiritual Subversiveness of Knowing Ourselves Whole. Loving Our Own Bones, Disability, Wisdom, and the Spiritual Subversiveness of Knowing Ourselves Whole. And this will be presented by Georgetown professor and disability activist, Rabbi Dr. Julia Watts-Belser. It's her new book. It promises to be a profoundly important conversation about what I think is an amazingly insightful approach to spirituality and politics. The book is getting rave reviews. I'm going to rave about it. I'll just give you a little sample. When she talks about, she's a rabbi, so much of this is struggling with Hebrew texts, but she looks at the notion of disability and God. And she says, it's not that we want, as a lot of the scriptures say, that the blind will see and the deaf will hear and the lame will walk and all those kinds of ableist things that they say in scripture. But she said, I want a God who signs. And I want people who get involved in architecture and design. In other words, she flips every argument about this to look in a new way at God on wheels. She's in a wheelchair, and she sees God not as black, not as woman, she sees it all those things, but in addition, God on wheels. Believe me, this is a book that has absolutely captivated my attention, and I urge you to join us Wednesday at 1 o'clock. We will also have on Tuesday, the 19th, the Water Liturgy, Kindling the Light of Peace for Winter Solstice, with Diane New and the water community, and that will be our final liturgy for the year, but I think it will be very much in line with what we've been talking about tonight, but kindling the light for winter solstice, and that is on December the 19th at 7:30 p.m., and I invite you to that. And our next meditation with this group will be on Monday, the 7th. Am I right, Brad? The 7th? Help me.
I think it's the 8th.
The 8th of January. And
I think.
Yeah, I'll double check it. But Brad will be doing the meditation, and it will be, yes, it's the 8th. It's Monday the 8th. And we'll start off the new year with a theme which I think is absolutely, pardon my French, beautiful. It's called Beauty, an Invitation to a Year of Wonder. And I look forward to that, Brad, and it will, I think, start us on a good note for 2024. As you know, all water programs are free and open to everyone. Donations are welcome and needed, but we socialize resources, so those who can donate do, and those who can't don't, and we make no distinction. We're grateful for the many people who support our efforts, and we believe, and we have proven over 40 years, that if we share, among us there's enough. And that is my favorite part of water, that if we share among us, there's enough. And I think we do. So I'm going to close the official part of our program with a final thanks to everybody. Feel free to stay on and chat if you wish. Be safe and well. I wish you a good night, and I wish you good holidays, and I wish you an enormously peaceful 2024.